It was another ordinary day in my regular high school life. I got a lot of homework, another project, and two tests. I looked over the project and test dates and realized I had a month. I put the two things in my backpack and pulled out my homework. I took a look at the homework and realized it was too easy. I thought to myself instead of wasting my time with this work now, I can play video games and do it later. I put my homework away, and before I knew it, hours and hours passed. Eventually, it was 10 p.m., and I decided to do my work. I looked through my backpack and found nothing, so I just thought to myself, why do homework? It's not going to make a difference. Day after day, the same habits continued and continued. Eventually, a month flew by, and it was time to turn on my project and prepare for my test. I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning, stressing and stressing. I waited until the last minute to study and trying to complete my project. The next day, we went to school. I turned in my project, and the teacher just stared at me. He could tell I stayed up all night before trying to put together this project. Later in the day, the test came, and since I was staying up all night before, I was really stressed all day. When we got our results, of course, I failed both the test and the project. Now I'm even more stressed. There was just 1 month left in school, and I was failing this class. The next day, I was a nervous wreck. I was so scared of getting another project or test, and just as I thought, we got another project and test that we needed to prepare for. I was so stressed when I got home, I didn't know where to start. I eventually stopped stressing and thought to myself, I have plenty of time to do this, there's no point thinking about it now. And there went the test and project papers back into a magical stack of papers located within my book bag. Of course, not doing my work, I spent my afternoon playing video games and hanging out with my friends. Before I knew it, 1 week of school had passed, and I only had 3 weeks to complete my project and prepare for my test. I was up all night worrying about how I'm going to finish my project and prepare for the test. The next day, my teacher, Mr. Jefferson, asked about my progress on the project and my readiness for the test. Telling him my current situation, he was very disappointed. He told me that this wasn't any project, that this was the final project and test. Mr. Jefferson told me that if I wanted to pass the school year and not go to summer school, I'd have to get an A on the final test and project. I knew it'd be fine, there was no way I could ever fail. I kept up my normal habits, but then my brother from college was home visiting, and that's when everything changed. He asked me about school, and I told him I had 2 weeks to finish my final project and study for my final test. He told me I needed to get working right away. He told me school was no joke, and that in order to be successful in life, I gotta be successful in school. I explained to him that I've become stressed and I've given up on all my work. He told me that being stressed is okay and there's a way to deal with it. I accepted my brother's advice and decided to work on my final project and prepare for my test. My brother and I stayed up all night talking, and he told me that procrastination and unorganization was a big factor of my stress. The next day, we spent organizing my papers and figuring out how to deal with my procrastination. I learned how to keep my papers organized, and we decided to go to the library, which will be my best option to study for my final test and complete my final project. The next afternoon, I headed to the library and got my first ever library card. I started talking to the librarian at the front desk, and she helped me find a comfortable study area. I explained my goals to the librarian, and she knew exactly what I needed. She provided me with resources to study and to match my needs. After a week of hard work, I received a B on a pop quiz, and I was halfway done with my project. I was so proud of myself. I wish I could have told my brother in person, but he was already on his way back to college. However, I knew there was more to come. This is just the beginning of what I needed to accomplish. There was so much more I had my mindset on. It was just the midst of a daily study session and my project work time when my two best friends called me. They asked me if I wanted to go see the newest movie that came out, but I told them I had to study and they thought I was joking. Within the next 10 minutes, I got another call and they were still being persistent about how the movie was like no other. After considering on what they said about the movie, I told them I was interested, but I still had to finish my work. Before I knew it, my friends were at my door ready to see the movie. While I was walking down the stairs, I still didn't have a clear answer in mind. When I got to the door, I knew what I had to do. I told them I wasn't ready and that they'd have to see the movie without me. It was 13 days before my deadline and I was advancing with my work, but there was still plenty of work left for me to do. I received a text message from Sierra saying that she had an extra ticket to a sold out music festival. She asked me if I wanted to go. This was the moment of a lifetime. My crush had finally asked me out to do something. Knowing that I was doing so well, I knew this was going to be a difficult situation. For hours, I thought and thought. Eventually, I called my brother and asked him what to do. My brother had told me I was working very hard and events like this come and go, but you only have one shot at success. That is when I knew the right decision. I grabbed my phone and called Sierra, telling her that I would not be able to attend the music festival. A week had passed and I was almost complete with my work. There was no signs of anybody making plans this week, and so it was the perfect time for work. I had all week to study and complete my project, but as I sat down in my final week of the studying, my phone buzzed and invitations started flowing. Everyone was talking about the biggest party of the year, which was conveniently the day before the test. All of my friends, including Sierra, were going to be there. I knew this was going to be a difficult task to overcome. I know I've been working really hard for these past few weeks, and when I thought to myself, I deserve a break from all this work. Days of hard work had passed and it was finally the day before the test. All of a sudden, my phone started ringing. It was Sierra asking if I was going to the party. I had completely forgot about it. I knew that I was ready for my test and my project was completed. I walked out the door and I was on the way to the party when a sudden thought popped in my head. I had been working so hard and developed all these new habits. If I go to this party, all my work would have been for nothing. It was at this moment I knew I had to turn around and go home. I pulled out my project and made sure it was the best I could do. I reviewed the material that was on my test and I knew I was prepared. As I was getting ready for sleep, I told myself I was ready for the project and test. I dozed off and had one of the best dreams of my life. I dreamed that I was on top of a mountain overlooking the entire world. In the distance, I could see the rising sun. I woke up to the sound of my alarm clock. It was finally the day I prepared for. I arrived at school and turned in my project. Mr. Jefferson glanced at me with a smile, and I knew it had to be a good sign. It was time to take the test, and as I looked through the booklet, I realized I knew all the information. As time passed, my classmates turned in their final test one by one. After completing my test and turning it in, I felt stress-free for the first time in forever. At the end of the day, as we were all preparing to leave, Mr. Jefferson burst into class with our results. He handed them out one by one. I was the last person to get my results. I had gotten a 98 on my test and a 98 on my project. I now know all my hard work and dedication had paid off. I now know how to deal with stress. Staying organized and proper time management had helped me reduce my stress that originally stopped me from being successful. That night I headed to the movies to celebrate my victory. Also, many of my friends were also there. I told them about my success and they started to congratulate me. They told me that I should continue to work hard and that my hard work has inspired them. I realized that I was new and improved in a way that I was organized and had proper time management skills. Becoming this new person had reduced the amount of stress I faced on a daily basis. This summer flew by and the new school year had already started. It was the first week of school and I received a project. Learning from my past, I knew what I had to do. I spent no time stressing and completed my work because I learned not to procrastinate and stay organized. This is when I knew my new habits would lead me to success.